They done took down Puff. They done took down all these other powerful black people. Jay Z's like the lone standing powerful
you
black
do
man.
the track wrestling on them. Jay is them people.
But I know they went up to the feds one day and they took some paperwork up there to him.
Let's be very clear. This is the email that DJ Vlad sent me, his producer sent me, asking me to appear on his podcast on YouTube just after the Cassie video was released on my birthday.
But like, where's Jay at? He's mad quiet. Like while the Puffy thing was going on. But it's obvious now that his team was being made aware that he was in those allegations also. So I hope it works out, because with his family, the things that go on internally is that those accusations are crazy.
Man, that was 50 Cent. No one's scared of 50 Cent. I want everyone to be clear. No one's scared of 50 Cent.
I think it was kind of taken out of context a little bit, but what do you think about it?
I don't think it was taken out of context. No, I think the guy who was talking to him made him feel like a punk. You see what I'm saying? So he had to say, yo, nobody's scared of 50. Let's get this clear. Nobody is scared of 50. But I'm not the issue. Him making you feel like a punk is the issue. At the end of the day, I look at it and people don't assess themselves. Even really intelligent people. Jay is a smart guy. You know what I'm saying? He'll analyze other people and other things that they're doing and not actually look at what's happening to him and his transition and difference.
Jay, your music saved my life, man. We're Sagittarius too, Bob. Thank you so much.
This didn't sound like a rant. It sounded like a pause. And when 50 Cent pauses before speaking, that's when the internet should stop breathing. Because the man who made a career out of saying exactly what everyone else is scared to even hint at finally opened his mouth about Diddy and Jay Z, and the timing alone feels suspicious. This wasn't a diss track. This wasn't a meme. This was 50 doing what he does best, smiling while lighting a match and pretending it's just for warmth. One comment, one moment, one carefully chosen line that made people rewind and say, wait, did he just say that? Because when 50 talks about industry giants, it's never random. It's layered. It's coded. It's the kind of truth that comes wrapped in sarcasm, humor, and just enough ambiguity to make lawyers nervous and fans obsessed. And if you think this is just another troll moment, you're already behind. This feels less like gossip and more like a pressure valve opening, like something that's been sitting on his chest for years finally found daylight. And if even half of what people think he's implying is true, this makes the Kardashians look like they argue over parking spots. This isn't about beef. This is about power, silence, and who gets protected. And once 50 Cent decides to speak, the industry doesn't get to pretend it didn't hear him. When 50 Cent finally decided to speak, it didn't come with a megaphone. It came with precision. The kind of precision that makes people reread a sentence 3 times and still feel like they missed something. Because when a man known for turning silence into strategy and jokes into weapons starts commenting on Diddy and Jay Z in the same breath, the industry doesn't hear comedy. It hears a warning. This wasn't a random moment. 50 doesn't wake up bored and poke billionaires for fun. He waits. He watches. He lets the room fill with smoke until everyone else is coughing. And then he cracks a window, just enough to let the truth slip out without ever fully naming it. That's why his words landed heavy. They weren't loud. They were measured. The background here matters because this tension didn't start yesterday. 50 Cent has spent decades positioned as the outsider who somehow knows everything. He's clashed with labels, mocked executives, and survived long enough to see the same names recycle power while pretending nothing changes. Diddy and Jay Z aren't just artists in this story. They're symbols, gatekeepers, brands so big they don't just influence music. They shape narratives. So when 50 finally addressed them, even indirectly, fans didn't hear gossip. They heard context. They heard years of side eyes, subliminals, and industry whispers suddenly aligning into something sounded dangerously close to an accusation without actually being one. And that's the scariest kind. What made this moment explode wasn't what 50 said verbatim. It was when he said it. The industry is already on edge. Lawsuits, documentaries, leaks, and uncomfortable conversations have turned hip-hop's golden era into a crime scene of unanswered questions. And right when people are asking who knew what and when, 50 steps forward with that familiar grin that says, "Y'all sure you want me to keep talking?" The sarcasm in his delivery did the heavy lifting. He didn't sound angry, he sounded amused. And amusement from someone like 50 Cent is never harmless. It's the tone of someone who knows the punchline and is enjoying the suspense. He framed his words like observations, not accusations. But observations from insiders carry weight, especially when they contradict the polished images fans have been fed for decades. First reactions were instant and chaotic. Some fans celebrated, calling 50 the only one brave enough to say what everyone's been whispering. They framed him as the truth teller, the villain who refuses to play nice in a room full of suits. Others accused him of clout chasing, stirring controversy for attention, or recycling old grudges. But even the critics admitted one thing: the timing felt intentional. Memes flooded in immediately. Screenshots of 50 smiling like a man who knows where the bodies are buried. Captions joked that he was the hip-hop version of that coworker who waits until the meeting. Ends to drop the most dangerous comment. The humor landed because it felt accurate. The real tension came from the industry's response, or lack of one. No immediate denials. No clarifying statements. Just silence. And silence in moments like this doesn't read as calm. It reads as calculation. Because when powerful figures stay quiet after being referenced, it tells fans there's a strategy being discussed behind closed doors. People started revisiting old moments. Old interviews where 50 hinted at favoritism. Old clips where he questioned who really owns what. Old jokes that suddenly didn't sound like jokes anymore. Context rewrote history in real time. What made this more than just another viral clip was how carefully 50 avoided specifics. He didn't name crimes. He didn't throw direct allegations. He talked about systems, about how power circulates, about how some people always land on their feet, no matter what happens around them. That kind of commentary doesn't get you sued, but it gets you watched. Fans immediately began connecting dots that may or may not belong together. They compared 50's comments to recent headlines involving Diddy. They looked at Jay Z's untouchable status and asked why certain questions never stick. The internet did what it does best. It built a story faster than facts could slow it down. And here's where the sarcasm gets sharp. Because hip-hop has always loved the idea of rebellion, but it worships power even more. So when someone like 50 challenges the image of the most powerful figures in the room, it creates cognitive dissonance. People want the tea, but they're afraid of what it implies. Industry insiders stayed vague, which only fueled speculation. A few hinted that 50's comments weren't new, just newly timed. Others suggested he was saying what he's always said, but the climate finally made people listen. That idea scared fans more than any rumor, because it suggests the truth wasn't hidden. It was ignored. The public split into camps. One side said this was overdue accountability, the beginning of a reckoning where untouchable names finally face scrutiny. The other side dismissed it as trolling dressed up as wisdom, a master provocateur doing what he does best. But both sides kept watching, because controversy without attention dies fast. And this had everyone glued. The energy shifted from curiosity to tension when people realized something else. 50 wasn't escalating. He was holding back. And when someone with his reputation chooses restraint, it usually means the real story is bigger than what's being said out loud by the end of this phase. The conversation wasn't about whether 50 Cent was right or wrong. It was about why his words felt like confirmation instead of revelation. Like he didn't expose something new, but reminded everyone of something they already suspected and chose to forget. This wasn't a mic drop. It was a throat-clear dot, and in an industry built on silence. Even that can feel like an earthquake. The real question wasn't what 50 said. It was what he decided not to say. Because when someone with decades of scars, survival instincts, and insider knowledge finally speaks, the pauses matter more than the words. And those pauses told the internet one thing very clearly. This story wasn't starting. It was resurfacing. And once buried stories resurface, they don't go back underground quietly. The moment 50's words hit the timeline, the internet didn't ask for clarification. It demanded interpretation. Every pause became a paragraph. Every smirk became a thesis. And suddenly, hip-hop Twitter turned into a late-night book club where everyone was reading between lines that weren't even printed. The memes arrived first, 'cause memes always arrive first. Screenshots of 50 smiling like he knows the ending to a movie nobody else has seen yet. Captions joke that he was the narrator who shows up in episode 6 and changes the entire plot. Others said he looked like the friend who tells you, "I'm not saying nothing," right before saying everything. The humor worked because it carried a warning. Celebrity reactions came indirectly, which made them louder. No names, no quotes. Just emojis, vague captions, and interesting timing posts that felt like smoke signals. Influencers went live claiming neutrality while clearly choosing sides. Podcasters stretched one sentence into an hour-long debate. Nobody wanted to be first to confirm anything, but nobody wanted to miss the moment either. The outrage didn't explode. It simmered. That slow boil where conversations get sharper instead of louder. Fans started asking why certain figures always escape scrutiny, while others get buried by allegations that never fully stick. They didn't accuse, they wondered. And wondering is the internet's favorite loophole? Pop culture comparisons went nuclear. People compared 50 to the whistleblower who never files paperwork, to the uncle at the cookout who says one sentence and ruins the vibe for everyone, to that character in a thriller who knows the truth but only reveals it when the villain already thinks they've won. The comparisons weren't subtle. And they weren't kind. The pressure grew when fans realized 50 wasn't engaging further. No follow-up. No clarification tour. No second punchline. He let the words sit. And letting words sit in an attention economy is a flex. It forces everyone else to do the work. Diddy and Jay Z's silence became the loudest reaction of all. Not defensive, not dismissive, just absent. And in a moment where the internet is craving responses, absence reads like strategy. Fans debate whether ignoring it would starve the story or validate it. Neither outcome felt comfortable. Neither outcome felt comfortable. The internet started connecting unrelated dots because that's what happens when trust erodes. Old interviews resurfaced. Old lyrics got reinterpreted. Past business moves were suddenly framed as chess. Not coincidence. Some of it was unfair. Some of it was exaggerated. All of it was viral. Public outrage didn't target a single claim because there wasn't one. It targeted the system. The idea that hip-hop crowns kings and then refuses to question them? That power gets polished until scrutiny slides off. 50's comments didn't accuse anyone of wrongdoing. They accused the culture of selective blindness. And that accusation hit harder. The sarcasm sharpened. People joked that hip-hop has an NDA problem. That truth gets delayed until it's profitable. That legends get treated like monuments instead of humans. And monuments don't answer questions. They just stand there while people whisper around them. Industry insiders added fuel without lighting matches. Anonymous quotes floated through blogs saying things like "this isn't new," and people have known for years. Statements vague enough to be safe, but specific enough to scare. Because when insiders confirm vibes instead of facts, the public assumes the worst dot. The outrage peaked when fans realized how asymmetric the conversation felt. 50 could joke freely because he has nothing to lose. Diddy and Jay Z couldn't joke back without elevating the moment. The imbalance made the silence feel heavier. Like a room where one person laughs and everyone, else checks the exits. Comparisons to other industry reckonings started trending. People referenced documentaries, lawsuits, and exposes from outside hip-hop, asking why music culture resists accountability longer than others. The tone shifted from curiosity to impatience. 50's reputation amplified everything. This is a man who has beefed with labels, executives, and entire systems and still walked away richer and louder. When someone like that speaks, people assume survival came with receipts. Even if none are shown, the memes got darker. He's not saying it because he doesn't have to. The truth doesn't need volume. Silence is the deluxe edition. Humor turned into prophecy. What really escalated the moment was how little it took. One comment, one pause, no expose, no leaked documents. And yet the conversation shook pillars. That's power. Not the power of accusation, but the power of implication. The internet's outrage wasn't demanding answers anymore. It was demanding acknowledgement. Say something, address it, laugh it off, deny it, anything but silence. Because silence feels like confirmation to an audience already primed to distrust institutions. By the end of this phase, the story wasn't about what 50 said. It was about what happens when untouchable figures get mentioned without ceremony. The mystique cracks, the halo tilts, and people realize respect has been doing the heavy lifting for years. This wasn't cancel culture. This was curiosity culture, and curiosity doesn't need proof to keep digging. The industry felt smaller suddenly. Less myth, more mechanics. And once mechanics are visible, magic struggles to survive. The moment didn't explode because of allegations. It escalated because of implications, and implications are the kind of fire that doesn't burn fast. It burns long, which meant everyone knew what was coming. Next wasn't a response, it was a reckoning of perception. When the dust settled, nothing actually settled. It shifted. And that's the part people miss when they wait for fireworks that never come. This moment didn't end with denials, lawsuits, or dramatic press conferences. It ended with perception bending slowly, quietly, permanently. Because when someone like 50 Cent speaks without saying everything, the industry doesn't scramble to respond. It recalculates. For 50, the aftermath looked effortless. He didn't tour the comment sections. He didn't double down. He didn't clarify. He went right back to smiling like the man who knows how the story ends and doesn't need to rush the reveal. That restraint reframed him yet again, not as a troll, not as a hater, but as a survivor who understands timing better than volume. The message was simple without being spoken. He said, enough. Diddy and Jay Z felt a ripple in a different way. Not through direct backlash, but through a subtle recalibration of how they're discussed. Conversations that once felt off limits suddenly felt permissible, not accusatory curious. That shift matters more than outrage ever could, because curiosity doesn't burn bridges. It inspects them. And inspection weakens myths faster than anger. The public didn't turn on legends overnight. That's not how this culture works. What changed was tone. Reverence softened into analysis. Praise came with footnotes. Interviews got rewatched with fresh ears. Business moves got framed as strategy instead of destiny. When icons stop being treated like inevitabilities, the ground beneath them changes even if they never stumble. Industry relationships adjusted quietly. Not ruptures, realignments, people became more careful about proximity, optics, and statements. Not because anyone admitted wrongdoing, but because implication is a liability. And liability doesn't need proof to affect behavior. It just needs risk. The loudest consequence was silence that suddenly felt expensive. For years, silence around powerful figures felt protective, even noble. Now it felt strategic. And strategy invites questions. Fans began asking why acknowledgement feels so hard when jokes are easy. Why humor gets a pass, but clarity doesn't. Those questions don't go viral all at once. But they stick. 50's role in this ecosystem became clearer than ever. He doesn't burn bridges. He tests their load-bearing limits. He doesn't accuse. He frames. He doesn't chase attention. He waits until attention is already looking for answers. That's why his comments didn't fade. They nested. The broader culture absorbed a lesson it pretends not to need. Power isn't undone by exposure alone. It's undone when people stop treating it like a sacred object. When scrutiny becomes normalized, not sensationalized. When asking questions stops feeling like betrayal. And here's the uncomfortable truth that lingered long after the memes moved on. This wasn't about proving anything. It was about permission. Permission to ask why some stories stall while others sprint. Permission to wonder who benefits from silence. Permission to acknowledge that hip-hop's legends are also executives. Operators and decision-makers in systems that reward discretion. No one was canceled. No one was convicted. And that's exactly why this moment mattered. It didn't resolve anything. It reframed everything. Resolution closes doors. Reframing changes hallways. The next interviews will feel different. The next jokes will land heavier. The next silence will be noticed sooner. That's the cost of implication. It makes every future move louder, even when it's quiet. 50 didn't blow a whistle. He adjusted the temperature. And in rooms built on comfort, temperature changes are disruptive. The legends remain legends. The brands remain intact. But the aura, that took a hairline crack. The kind you don't see until the light hits it just right. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This moment won't be remembered for what was said. It'll be remembered for what stopped being. It's unaskable afterward. Because when the industry realizes the audience is listening differently, it has to perform differently. And that's the real aftermath. Not scandal, not fallout, not exposure, but a quieter, sharper attention that doesn't clap on command anymore. Which means the next time someone pauses before speaking, the room will already be holding its breath. Because now everyone knows the truth doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it just clears its throat, and that sound echoes longer than any shout ever could. Now, don't just sit there nodding like this didn't hit a nerve, because moments like this aren't made for quiet watching. They're made for loud opinions. Drop a comment and say what everyone keeps dancing around. Did 50 Cent actually expose something? Or did he just remind the industry that silence only works when people stop asking questions? Was this wisdom trolling, or the calm before a storm nobody wants to name out loud? And smash that like button, like it. You money and just try to dodge the question. Don't tap it politely. Hit it with suspicion. Because every like tells the algorithm you want more moments where the truth doesn't scream, it smirks. If you're not subscribed yet, that's on you. This channel doesn't wait for indictments or apologies. We track the pauses, the timing, the looks that linger a second too long. Scandals don't always explode here. Sometimes they breathe. And those are the ones that change everything. Because, let's be real, this story isn't over. When legends get mentioned instead of accused, when silence becomes strategy, and when one man's joke turns into an entire industry shifting in its seat, you already know more chapters are loading. The next interview, the next laugh, the next no comment is going to sound very different now. So stay locked in, stay curious. And remember this, noise distracts, silence protects, but implication rewrites the room. This wasn't just commentary. This was calibration. Welcome to Fame Blue, where the truth doesn't chase headlines. It waits for them to catch up. Doesn't chase headlines. It waits for them to catch up.